We call them the Australian trees, but actually they're just rhododendrons turned upside down. Hi, I'm Adam from the Wilderness Garden. I'm the head gardener. As part of the clearance of the garden, we had large numbers of rhododendrons, which some of them are very large. So rather than paying to remove them, we've made them as features of art. And it's kind of a bit of a joke, really, because we call them the Australian trees, but actually they're just rhododendrons turned upside down. We do intend to jet wash off the roots, so it looks like a tree upside down, and obviously is a feature which lots of children won't have seen. The upturned roots from the rhododendrons, which we're calling the Australian trees, form good habitats for wildlife such as hedgehogs, insects and other animals. Just to show you around the garden a bit, these are actually the old holly trees which were removed just to lighten this whole area up, to allow more light in. We are getting more bulb growth, which is the reason for removing them. Obviously more light, the more bulb growth we get. There is a collection of hollies in the garden, so we've maintained some. There's red berries, yellow berries, orange berries and white berries in the garden. All the hollies which have been removed have been used in the edgings to the pathways, just to recycle them rather than throwing them away or going to landfill. A number of the hollies have been chopped at this height because we were originally going to winch them out. Obviously, then we've got to get rid of the stumps. So we're going to chop them off at ground level and leave them in the ground to rot down. Hello, welcome to the wilderness. I'm going to explain now some of the young trees which have been planted in the garden. Obviously, we removed a lot of trees to create acid grassland areas in the garden. As a result, we had to apply for planning permission to do that. A number of the trees we've replanted 36. They're all indigenous native trees. So, as you can see behind me here, a lot of them are sweet chestnuts. We've also got oaks, we've got hornbeams. There's a whole range in order just to increase the diversity in the garden. Young trees which we planted in the garden were selected partly because of the benefits they give to the wildlife, but also they've been located so we get as much light in here as possible, because this was an open woodland. We're trying to return it to that. The hollies, which were prevalent in the garden, have created a very dense canopy and lots of shade. So they've been taken out now. The trees that were planted were 45 litres, so they're quite heavy. They take out 2 to 3 people to lift the trees. As you can see here, the trees are around 12 feet high. The root balls, they were all bought in root balls. They've all been planted while the trees, because they're deciduous, were dormant. So they've all been planted up to kind of around March. The young trees which were planted have a watering system. Basically it's a pipe which goes around underneath the tree down here, and then there's one pipe that comes up which you water through. In doing that, the water all goes right down to the base of the tree, and there's very little evaporation. These trees will progress. They won't reach their full size because there's so much shade here and there's so much competition for water, etc., with other trees. Hello, I'm Adam Fuller from the Wilderness. I'm the head gardener here. The garden was being restored and we found these plants hidden away in here. These are tree heathers, Erica arborea. They will have branches with these little frilly green things which turns to flower in the spring. The flowers are white and very heavily scented. They don't normally get to this sort of size, but this is a couple of 100 years old, which explains the size. They are a very key feature of the garden and were cut right back so they could reform.